Hi, I'm Mike, and welcome to Roll Radio. Today we're going to talk to Marty of POORSTUDIO. And before we get to that interview, I want to talk a little bit about the idea of artists in the Web3 space. And by paying attention to what these artists are doing, you're really able to see the sort of first implementation of a lot of where social tokens and community meet and start to really provide value. We recently saw the launch of Shepard Fairey's token Obey and some really interesting choices about how they're going to use that token just within their community and not offer any kind of pricing as they get started. And also music artists like Harrison First, who's really been at the forefront of all of these digital tools in any way that social tokens can interact with the work that he's doing. The way that artists are always and historically have always been at the forefront of these tools, and figuring out the best way to use them is something that I find super interesting as it relates to what Marty's been putting together and building. And then over the last couple of years, really migrating to a native Web3 experience. For the video portion of this, for those watching, I'm going to show you Marty and his setup. With that, let's jump into the interview and talk to Marty. Today I'm talking with Marty Perry, aka Poor Marty. He runs the digital space POORSTUDIO. Marty's building an artist and design community around POORSTUDIO and the associated token POORBUCKs, and I'm really excited to learn about his work, his plans for the upcoming year. Marty, thanks for joining me.
Oh man, thank you for having me. This is exciting. I get to show off the new digs.
I love that we're getting like a full demo. Oh man, there it is.
It's exciting to be able to talk as this. I think a lot of people see like my avatar and they see like, because of Twitter and Instagram, they can see the icon, but because it's just an image, a lot of people don't get to see it in action. So doing things like this are fun and it's fun sharing.
The interaction feels so seamless between doing an interview like this, interacting with you on Twitter. All of it feels of one piece once you have this kind of live layer.
What's exciting is as there are more things like more utilities and more tools, there'll be more ways to actually combine and connect these things. A lot of it is kind of like me taking manual tracking of like being able to reward things. But what's fun is when more tools will come out that can make those things seamless, like truly seamless, and no work. So this is kind of the beginning of all of those experiences. I like experiences. And what's exciting is that the look and the style, it can be anything. So that's always fun, taking input from community members on. I've got some I've got some plants in the background. I could change, we could have votes, or, even how I do things during the stream, we can, have input on things that happen. So there's a lot of flexibility that, we can throw into this, and having, something like POORBUCKs to be able to facilitate those things really make the Web3 and, content space really, really fun and exciting.
uh, just to kind of catch people up, I love the name POORSTUDIO. When I read that, I kind of think about how, as an artist, you sort of work within whatever limitations that you have. We kind of have this idea of the starving artist. So, how did you come up with that name and the idea of Poor Marty and Poor Bucks?
Oh man, that's literally how it came. I got started creating content in like 2009, maybe 2010, right out of college. I went to school for animation, but it was not what I expected. I dropped out. I didn't drop out. I graduated, but I didn't get into animation until a few years ago. What I ended up doing was I started creating content on YouTube, but I didn't because I was in animation. Everything was computer based. I didn't have the tools to get into filmmaking, and so I was using old video recorders that have the little tiny CDs, the mini DV recorders. So I was using all of these random things. Like I couldn't afford a green screen, so I was using a green sheet that I bought from Walmart. I was just making do with a lot of the shortcomings that I had, and that really propelled me. It actually, I think it improved me being able to do things without having all of the things that you would think you needed. Even before Poor Studio was Poor House, and it was kind of like me working out of my parents' bed, not my parents' bedroom, in my parents' house, in my bedroom, working out of a little 8 by 8 room because my sister was she took the bigger room when I went to school. But it just came down to working out of the house in my tiny little space with all of the things that I didn't have, and being able to produce. And when I really made a decision to get into finally get into animation, like 10 years later, everybody wanted me to like get a regular job. Artists don't make money. So that was really what spawned Poor Studio, how I came up as an artist, and then me really finally deciding to really dive in and take my career seriously, because it took from 2009 till about almost 8 years, 2016, 2017, for me to really take art seriously. So finally, when I did that, it was it was a hard decision to tell my family that, yeah, I'm not getting like, I'm not getting a regular. I did a bunch of odd jobs. I'm not doing it anymore. That was really like what birthed the idea of Poor Marty, and how Poor Studio was born.
When you have to work within those limitations and work backwards, with the previous generation or previous era, I think you actually end up getting your hands a little dirtier, like you're in it a little bit more.
One of the exciting things was that being a solo creator, I would write the song, I would record the song, I would, do my best mixing the song. It wasn't great, but I would go through the whole process. And I think that really showed me how to take piece of content from beginning idea, conception to actual final product, and figuring out how to get it online and sharing it. That kind of showed me every step of the process. And and I was doing this in nights, doing writing, ideating, writing, producing, publishing, all in within the span of 12 hours sometimes.
It shows in sort of the entire world you've created around this. Like there's an aspect of storytelling there that if you had just had the tools to build kind of anything right away and had built all of that stuff in over time, it wouldn't feel as rich. Like when you cut to that wide shot, there's so much in that studio, like visually going on, and I'm sure to you each of those things is a reference point and means something different. I'm curious how you went from kind of like content creation and sort of how you kind of fell into Web3.
Sitting on Clubhouse. That's literally how I transitioned. I've been making content since about 2011. Most of the content for about 2 years, it was content on YouTube. Then I got into shooting music videos, and that was from 2012, 2013 till about 2015. Then 2016, I got a job as a content producer at SiriusXM. Stayed there for about 2 years, and then 2018, I became a contractor for Interscope. So content has really been my profession since I got out of school. 2019, Clubhouse, and then sitting in a lot of these visual effects and production and building your value rooms on Clubhouse kind of sparked a new idea of what I wanted to do content wise. Then I fell into Unreal Engine and figured out how to do all of this. A lot of my background is in production. I was like, ooh, Unreal Engine, production, virtual production. And then that was a super deep hole that I fell in and I still haven't gotten out of. But then on Clubhouse, NFTs popped up, and it was just, wait a second, you know, and it was crazy because I watched Blau and all of these other NFT artists doing all of this stuff, and I was like, wow. The first person that got me into social tokens was I think his name is Ronan from Lads, and I heard him talk a few times about what he was doing with his token for his community. And that really was like, like I was like, what? You can create value for your community and create tools to help facilitate interactions between your community and the content you create. So that excited me a lot more than just the prospect of selling your art for money. I created POORBUCK in March of 2021, and I don't think I actually like officially launched it, like announced that I had it for another 6 months. I think now, like 2022 in February. Now I'm really starting to get on the ball with how I want to create and facilitate, like the storytelling, and how I want to reward and get people interacting with what we're doing. Yeah, that's pretty much how I got into social tokens, to make it short. It was kind of just like listening to people and seeing what the landscape was doing as soon as the NFTs popped up.
And speaking of NFTs, you wrote a blog post somewhat recently being a little bit critical of the culture around NFTs, specifically that kind of hype culture of selling and shilling all the time. What is it about that culture that bothers you? How do you see that kind of contrasting with social tokens?
It's funny. I wrote that last year, maybe towards summer. My thoughts on it haven't changed, right? You see it more. And now we're hearing, more scams are happening. And it's giving people the wrong idea about, just the crypto space and the NFT space just in general. Shilling, and it's not the cause of it, but it's not helping. One of the things that really upset me about all of the shilling and getting all of these cold messages for look at my project, this is what I don't care, know you. It's like when, if you've been to Times Square and you're walking down the street and the dudes are like, yeah, buy my CD, yo fam, check out my music. And it's like, I'm good. And that's kind of like the feeling you get. And then you sit in these rooms, sitting on Twitter Spaces is the main marketing module for getting your NFTs out, and listening to people, buy my it almost feels like, buy my NFT, it costs this much, but you get this. That formula and that idea of selling just because of the value, it doesn't feel like I'm getting anything but the proposition of like how much I can flip it for. I want something that I can, enjoy, not just, say that I have sitting in my wallet worth this much money.
So the idea of that social token being an interactive element, it's not so precious that I need to hold all of my poor bucks. I can have them, I can spend them back, I can use them. We can interact together within that community. Even the community members can start interacting because it's fungible, right? Because you have many of them that can kind of move around that space.
Even the things that we're building, as there are more tools available, there's definitely going to be a lot more fun things to happen. And one of my favorite tools right now to use with POORBUCK is Mintgate, because they allow you to token gate anything, really. NFTs, websites, YouTube videos. You can even token gate books. Imagine a community member winning POORBUCK, because one of the things I like to do is, I've been posting puzzles on the POORSTUDIO Twitter. The people who solve them are rewarded POORBUCK, and now it's you can win your POORBUCK uh, participating in a puzzle, and then you can take those and you can go to the site, or you open up a new channel on the Discord, and you get a little extra.
There's such a huge education component to what you're doing. And I feel like that runs through a lot of the successful Web3 projects that we're seeing. Can you talk about what are the tools you're currently using, specifically around Web3? What have you left behind and what's in the active toolkit?
There's nothing been left behind. I've actually picked up more design tools, right? Like for this, I'm using Unreal Engine and OBS to create my virtual camera. It can get a little technical with the setup of things, but as I get deeper into Web3, one of the tools that I use in the Discord and for creating other interactive Web2 elements is IFTTT. If this, then that. And that allows me to send information and data through the web on different triggers. And what's fun is that with IFTTT, I can send alerts from, whatever and have them populate Discord, send rich messages to Discord. And I have a Discord plugin for Unreal Engine so that I can actually have triggers that send from, different places from on the internet that get sent to Discord that can, update things in here. And then there's also I just found it out. It's called how.xyz, and they're basically IFTTT for blockchain. I get to do the exact same thing, but I can, base it around the price of a token dropping or rising. I can do it on a wallet receiving items. So I could have, like, let's say I say, hey, send your NFTs to this wallet. I can have things pop up, so there's a lot of different things. Those are two similar tools, but one is Web2, one is Web3. And then figuring out how to have them, meet is, going to be the fun and exciting part. Like I mentioned before, Mintgate. Mintgate has been kind of like my favorite tools. What they've enabled is just like I can incorporate them actually in the site. I could also like mint on their site and you can get access to something on the site. There's also Artiva. They're a NFT platform that will allow you to create your own platform or marketplace where you can sell your NFTs. They're built on top of Zora. So, Zora just updated their protocol of V3 and now you can do additions. We have POORBUCK integrated into Artiva, so we can buy NFTs via POORBUCK.
Once all those parts start sticking together, things get super easy as a community member, right? Like if I can tune in and there's maybe your plant in the background of the studio is healthier or less healthy based on the price of $4 or something like that, and makes it more fun to watch and engage and participate.
And there's even POAP is doing some fun stuff with Twitch. You can mint POAPs straight from your Twitch stream. And then, there's a bunch of stuff that you can do with that, polls, raffles. But, that's super brand new. I haven't even tested that.
That phrase, that's brand new, I haven't even tested it yet, is going to be like a running theme in this world for the next probably couple of years. What we're using and talking about even today is different than it was a month ago, is super different than it was 6 months ago.
As new tools come out, new ways of interacting are coming. Like I was doing AR and VR, 2-3 years ago, and NFTs and social tokens come along, and I'm just like, there's so much more that's possible now. In the cartoons when they got that little tiny snowball and it just falls down the hill and it just, yeah, that was me. I fell and now I'm like cascading down this this hill as this giant snowball.
Imagine it's December 2022, and looking back, what are some of the things that you hope to have accomplished? What are kind of the milestones you're looking for this year? Like, what does success look like for POORBUCK and for POORSTUDIO?
I think having a self-sustaining content platform, Poor TV is just the beginning. This is just one iteration of what this could look like. The plan is to have series of shows. The plan is to have all types of content. I think what's fun is that, the idea of a DAO is exciting, but I think there are some limitations to it. There are some drawbacks. Now we kind of have this thing where we're like Web 2.5. We still like Twitter's Web 2, but that's the main platform, for NFT discovery. I'm kind of more focused on bridging the gap between what is possible in Web 2 and what's possible in Web 3. I like to say I'm building my house now on stilts. So when that big wave comes in, we have a nice platform that we can facilitate a lot of new experiences for people. POORSTUDIO won't be a DAO, but I'm in love with the DAO tools using them for different aspects of not necessarily governance, but like I'm wearing a atom bomb shirt. We can do things where different aspects of production can be voted on. We can say there's a new character coming. What do they wear? What should their set look like? Voting on those aspects of a production versus, deciding larger decisions, leave that to the studio, but leaving the things that are production, asset creation, content creation based content up to the community. And I find that really exciting. A lot of the things that we don't get with like films or Netflix or Hulu or Hollywood content or all of these different things we don't have a say in. So I want to make it as interactive as possible, but also giving the community a way in to actually, deciding what they want to see.
That level of interaction at the sort of Hollywood super professional high level, it's always reactive. It's like what's doing well in the ratings, what's the sentiment of things we want to respond to. You're allowing the community to be more proactive instead of reactive in some of those kind of programming and production decisions.
Right now, before I got my job working in corporate, I was doing a lot of underground stuff. I was doing photo walks. I was doing, photo shoots with other artists. So what I was doing in the first iteration with, Poorhouse, I was doing, it's an iteration of Poor TV from 7 years ago. I was doing a lot of like artist interviews, like, tell me how you feel. Success to me looks like using Web3 tools, creating a platform for other creators and having, a consistent stream of content that you don't need to have POORBUCKs to watch any of this content. POORBUCKs and, any NFTs we create give you access to extra things, but you don't need it to watch content. And that's one of the things that's exciting. And I like to say that POORSTUDIO is reimagining content in Web3.
Anytime technology is in this place where we're pushing the edge, it's so important to have artist exploration. You're building a model not just for other artists, but I think for how this space gets used.
I pay attention to a lot of the different movements that's going on. Like music has a huge movement going on right now, and there are a lot of artists aren't excited about what labels are doing and their contracts, and then filmmakers don't like how Hollywood is treating them and how they get treated when it comes time for pay. That causes a lot of people to immediately say, oh, NFTs, I know I can make money from that. But I feel like using NFTs and social tokens as tools, you can create a wider array of experiences. And I think that's where, that sweet spot is, when you focus on experiences and, engagement, as opposed to, the quickest way to a bag.
Our brains are still Web 2 around a lot of this stuff. So that's where those solutions that you're figuring out, you're going to push things in a wildly different direction than if you were thinking of it from a corporate perspective. Having the community access of Web3 is such an important thing to exist, provides that onboarding and that educational content for people as well, but is incredibly entertaining to come on and talk to you and interact with this, again, this whole universe that you've created.
This is literally like the beginning. You hear that every day and listening into these rooms, and it's, oh, we're still early. We're still early. Yes, we're early. But like, I've been thinking about interactive experiences for years, being able to do these things in person. Like, what does that look like? And what's fun is that, even in the first iteration of what I thought POORSTUDIO was, I called it a lab. I'm playing with all of these new technologies and these new tools. If you go to the site, there's a watch tab, and we've got different channels that you can, tune into. A lot of the content hasn't been populated there yet, but there's going to be so many different things. And, it's just exciting to really like get to playing with all of these things and really feeling like I'm on space or like a scientist or something.
You do so much work in public showing the iterations. I love that you're not precious about like it has to be perfect when I display it.
One of the things that I'm really excited to be able to do is reach out to awesome Black and BIPOC designers and creatives to get help with content. I've got a couple of people that I'm building some ideas with and building with to bring even more to the studio. You can be anything in Web3, but I'm this is not really what I look like. It's close. People say, "Oh, that looks like you." I'm like, oh, okay. I decided to, stay a Black guy, because that's me. We need more representation in a lot of these platforms because this culture is exactly tech, and it's very bro-y.
It is something that I think this space, tech as a whole, but this space also actively needs to work on. As we close out, run us through real quick where people can find you, and then maybe most importantly, how do people get their first POORBUCKs?
You can find me at on Instagram. It's POORMARTY. Twitter, my original Twitter got suspended because of all the music stuff I was posting. So my my personal Twitter is POORMARTY_. POORSTUDIO is POORSTUDIO_, and that's on Instagram and Twitter. The site is POORSTUDIO.us. The Discord is poor.studio. I believe there are some links in the Discord to claim some POORBUCKs. I'm doing a lot of puzzles on the POORSTUDIO Twitter. So if you like getting your daily brain activity, check out the POORSTUDIO Twitter. I'm not posting daily, but I'll leave the puzzles up for a few days at a time to let people try to figure them out. That's a good way to get some POORBUCKs.
So yeah, and you can also grab some POORBUCKs in the show notes. Marty's been kind enough to throw a code down there. So that's going to be a limited offering for people. Can't wait to be a much more active part of your community. I'm super excited about what you're working on and looking forward to what comes next.
Thank you for having me. This I've been looking forward to. It's like, yeah, I get to show my things. So I appreciate taking the time.
For those listening on the audio on the podcast version, you are missing a good 50% of what Marty's been building here. Check out the YouTube, the video version of this, or go explore some of the channels that we talked about.
One thing I'll say is I've been building the Twitch out. So there's also the Twitch coming back.
Can't wait to talk to you again. And yeah, see you in the streams and in your Discord. Thanks again, Marty.
Thank you. Thank you so much.